You are listening to Storymakers, the podcast for women who are ready to step into their true identity, live with meaningful purpose, find belonging and connection, grow in leadership, and walk boldly in faith. Here you can uncover the story that you were created to live because you were made for such a time as this. So we've been talking about how our thoughts and belief systems impact our emotions. And I want to extend that to how our emotions impact our actions. If you think of any time you've ever felt like you were just spinning your wheels, you were stuck in life, you want to change, and you think you're like, I'm ready, I want change, I'm praying for clarity, but for some reason things aren't shifting, moving, the needle's not going anywhere. What if you are not as stuck as you think and you're not really being controlled by life circumstances? It's not always just hormones. It's not always just other people. That's where this action area comes through. That's like the A path. It's the hinge between what's going on inside of you and then the results that are showing up around you. And I think it's really tied to things like procrastination and perfectionism, numbing out and escapism, self-sabotage, like all of these things. And scripture tells us that faith without works is dead in James 2, but it also says in 1 Samuel 16 that God looks at the heart. So the question is, which one matters more? Is it what I do that matters most or why I do it that matters the most? And I think the answer is yes, it's both. Everybody hates when somebody does that, right? Yes. The answer to both questions is yes. But in the kingdom, your being is what shapes and informs your doing. And the world is going to teach that you have to do to have to be. And it's like you have to take action that forms your identity, that helps you be somebody that you want to be or that other people want you to be. But God says to be still and know I am God. That's what he says. And from that knowing, you develop identity, and that identity flows into your purpose and informs where you belong and how you belong. From the knowing and the belief and thoughts that you have in your own paradigm, it informs the emotion that you experience. And from that emotion, you take action. And when you know and believe the truth, the action that comes from that doesn't stem from striving or fear or shame. It comes from a place of alignment, but we are not always operating from that place, right? We get out of alignment. We get into fear. We get into questioning our identity. We forget who we are. We forget who we belong to, or we haven't done the work yet to know, or we haven't gotten the revelation yet. And that's okay. We have to have a tolerance for and acceptance of the journey that we're in, the process that God has us in, right? So we're talking about not just what you're doing in your action, but we're going deeper into the why you're doing it, because that is where the ultimate power is, because you have power to change what you do by shifting your paradigm. And action's not just about doing big things or hustling or striving. It's not about a packed calendar. It's not about crushing goals. It's not about checking off the tasks or doing everything perfectly the first time. It's what you do in the choices that you make, the steps you take, how you spend your time, but also what you don't do, where you are delaying and ignoring or avoiding. That's action. Delay is an action. Ignore is an action. Avoid is an action. And it also speaks to anything that you're doing that is buffering. And buffering, it means that you're trying to use something externally to fill up something internally. And that could be, I'm buffering by cleaning the toilet because I don't want to pay the bills. I'm buffering with some Oreos and ice cream because I don't want to face the grief that has come my way. That's buffering. You're choosing something else instead of facing what is real, and it's not going to go away, right? So you have to let that sink in, that inaction is actually action. That's where inaction is happening. It's in this action path. Avoidance, that's a choice to act in avoidance. So every action is actually driven by something deeper in your emotions. And we're not just acting randomly, even though, because we haven't been taught this, we think that we have done things by default or because of the truth, which is really not always the truth, right? When you separate the facts of the matter from how I've interpreted them, they are two different things. So we aren't acting randomly or because other people made us do something. We are always making choices, consciously or subconsciously, to take action. And that includes all forms of inaction. Whether we're trying to move towards something that feels good to us or away from something that feels bad to us, we take action that gets us closer or further away from whatever it is we're focused on. And again, that focus might not be at the surface where you're thinking about it or you're conscious about a feeling that you don't want to have. Your brain sometimes perceives a threat that you don't consciously see. You're not aware of it, but your brain it might perceive a situation to be something that it remembers this has happened before and then triggers an emotion for you that then you take action from because you don't want to feel that emotion of fear. So you get away from it and you look back later and go like, that's so weird. Why did I act like that? Why did I respond that way? So even when we know better, we don't always do better. And if a thought creates fear, we can take action to get away from it, run away from it, escape. But if a thought brings hope, we will maybe lean into that differently. So action's always a response to the emotional state that our brain is triggering through our body, which is why self-awareness is really key to breaking patterns. And, we have to be honest that most of us live in a tension of wanting to move forward, but fearing what will happen if we do it. So we kind of buffer, and maybe we are scrolling all of the time or stuck on Netflix or Hulu. We're overthinking, overanalyzing. We let ourselves get hyper busy, or we clean things when we don't need to be cleaning, or we basically pull away, withdraw, and check out entirely. So these are not things that are like a moral failure. They're just protection strategies, coping mechanisms, automatic actions your brain is using to avoid a perceived threat or pain. But when we aren't conscious of them, then what happens? They end up running our lives. So this is why the awareness matters, because your paradigm of thoughts and beliefs and interpretations creates the emotional experience, which fuels your action, whether it's intentional or just subconscious and reactive. The goal here isn't to force yourself into like a different behavior. It's to allow yourself to get curious and ask honest questions and confess to yourself and to the Lord what's really going on. You have to start thinking about what you're thinking and taking notice about what you're feeling and what you're doing. And sometimes you see what you have done. And then you ask, like, why? What was I feeling that led to me taking this action to either get more of that emotion or maybe avoid that emotion. So your actions show what you actually believe, not just what you say you believe. So if you believe your voice really matters, then you're going to use it. If you believe failure means shame, then you'll probably avoid taking a risk. Risk is not the action. Avoidance is, right? If you believe rest is weakness, you will run yourself into the ground. If you believe God is for you, you'll step forward, even when you are scared or you've never done this thing before and it seems too big for you. So if your current actions aren't lining up what you think you value or desire, it's not a discipline issue. It's an alignment issue, an awareness issue. Every action produces an outcome that we call a result, which we're going to dive into more in the next episode. But today I want you to understand that your paradigm of thoughts and beliefs, they create an emotion that informs the action you take. And that leads straight into results, the immediate tangible outcome of your action. And that culminates in repeated results that lead to the legacy. And that's where we're going with this. So your choices today are laying the bricks of tomorrow's story. That's the power and the responsibility of each of your actions. So I want you to think about this. What are you consistently doing? Even the things that you're doing without thinking about what you're doing and intentionally deciding to do it. And then what do you say that you want? And how are your actions reflecting or resisting what you say you want? So this is a work that we do in coaching called True Goals. And if you say, I want connection with my spouse or my child or my parent or my friend, then your actions reveal if that's actually what you want. If you have results from actions that you've taken that lead to connection, then it reveals that you are taking actions to communicate and connect. And that means that when you say you want connection, and that it actually reveals that that is your true desire because you're taking action towards that result. If you do things like withdraw, then it reveals that your true desire might be more like self-protection as opposed to connection. Connection requires risk in a relationship. But if you disconnect and you withdraw or you protect yourself, that reveals the paradigm that you operate from, that thought line and the belief system that you have reveals that you need to protect yourself at all costs, or it's not safe to connect with this person, or maybe you don't actually want to be connected to this person. And it reveals itself in your paradigm, then your emotions, and then the action that you take. And when you are out of alignment, it's not your true goal. When you say you want connection, your true goal is self-protection. And if you're not willing to move past that and shift that in your paradigm, then you will never be able to change your action just by adding discipline to it, or accountability, or requirements, or deadlines. The next thing is I want you to think about, are you moving toward things that matter or away from what is like uncomfortable or not fun? What do you move towards? And are your actions being fueled by hope or by fear? And then in those tensions, how could you give yourself just a little bit more grace for the process, right? I want you to observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions and I want you to learn how to do it without judgment. So actually start tracking. What are you doing? Take a few days to notice the patterns of not just what you do, but what you don't do. What are you avoiding? What are you ignoring? What are you pursuing? What are you going after? And then get curious about the why of it. So for every action, ask yourself, what feeling was I chasing? What feeling was I trying to get away from and escape? And then connect that back to your paradigm. What thought or belief is fueling that emotion that I wanted more of or wanted less of? And then it's always a good idea to identify what kind of behavior you tend to lean towards that's buffering. So what are the small actions that give you a little bit of like momentary relief, but they prevent your actual growth and progress and transformation in life? They prevent you from getting the results that you say you want, right? Because you keep choosing that momentary fix. And then I want you to think of just one action that really is in alignment, one step that reflects who you truly want to be, what you truly want to do, what you truly want to create in your life. And not based on the pressure that you have to get it right this time, or somebody is waiting on you, or I'm expecting you to report back to me, but actually do it with purpose and desire. Like, no, I want this. I'm in alignment with this. And pay attention to what it feels like to be in alignment with it, to do it, and then to look at the fruit of it. What does that feel like? And celebrate it. Your brain is wired for celebration. If you never celebrate, your brain is actually missing this whole chunk of what it's created for. But again, we're not in elementary school, and the teams are not cheering for us on the field anymore. And we don't get clapped for every time we, walk from the coffee table to the couch like we did when we were babies. We just don't get that celebration anymore. You are responsible for celebrating you more than anybody else is. My birthday is a month long, and that's because I make it that way, not because anybody else is going to. But I love celebrating, and I love birthdays. Everybody's birthday. Everybody gets a birthday month. You have an entire month, and I don't care when that month starts. And my birthday is 4 days after Christmas. It's ridiculous. Like, nobody can do anything, and it's cold. So let's celebrate in the summer. I have a half birthday. So you can do whatever you want to do and celebrate however you want to celebrate. You can celebrate any small or big thing that you want to. You can take yourself out to lunch. Tell yourself, I get to spend $16.99 on a new shirt at TJ Maxx. If you're like, I don't have money to celebrate, take yourself to Chick-fil-A, get a meal, right? And sit in the car and turn on some really good music and just treat yourself for 30 minutes. Nobody can reach you. Turn the phone off. Get as many Chick-fil-A sauces as you want. The drink you want. You don't have to worry about anybody else wanting toys or spilling anything in the back seat. No, this is your moment of celebration. You can have it the way you want it. Or dress yourself up and go out with a friend. Go to brunch on Saturday. Take yourself by yourself. I love going places by myself. I so give you permission to celebrate alone. There are certain days of the year I take myself to lunch because it's my grandma's birthday and she's been gone for a long time. Or it's the day she passed. It's the anniversary of her passing. I'd still take myself out. Like, why not? I'll take an excuse for anything. So celebrate the alignment you step into in some way. Buy yourself a new book, right? Whatever you want. So pay attention to what you do when nobody's watching. Think about what you're thinking about. And ask yourself, like, what are my actions actually teaching me about what I believe, what I really think? And then are these beliefs true? And are they aligned with who I want to be and the legacy I really want to intentionally become a builder of? Then take one intentional action that's really reflecting the story you want to live in and break the patterns, do the work to quit the habits. You don't have to continue to reflect the story just because you've been used to repeating it. So if this stirs anything up for you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who could use the same encouragement, the same concepts. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about the results that actions create and how over time they shape the story that you are writing. So remember that you are not powerless. You have agency. You don't have to live by default. Your choices matter, and you're not alone in the making of your story.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss any new episodes. And to learn more about me, my work, and how we can connect, visit sterlingandstonementoring.com or check the show notes. And until next time, remember, all things are possible and figure-outable.